Well, hello everybody. Pastor Randy here. Great to be with you today for Making It Simple. We've been talking about making a trade. What does that look like? What does that involve? Why should we do that? We've been looking at understanding the power of fear over our life. And as we begin to examine this passage from Psalm 56, we see that David has found the answer. What I want us to explore in this teaching series is that we can too. You know, fear is overpowering, fear is crippling, fear is paralyzing, I should say. And it really has become a method of control. As I said yesterday, we see it in the oppressive nature, in that every new thing that comes down the way, it is preceded by fear. Let's scare everybody into compliance. And we could go down a lot of trails as to what I'm talking about, but I believe that most of you would understand, because all you got to do is open your eyes. Every new thing, it doesn't matter what it is. And the sad part about it is some of it's not real. Do you know that the definition of fear is oftentimes something that is an element that is physically there, or something that is perceived to be there? In other words, I think it might happen, therefore I'm afraid of it, and maybe it was never real. Many of us maybe struggled when we were kids with the boogeyman. And I'm not talking about Jimmy Valiant for all you wrestling fans, but the boogeyman, that scared, entity that was behind the door that was always going to get you, but it wasn't there. It was an element of control. When we go back to our passage here in Psalm 56, we find David facing his fears. Facing his fears. What does it say here? It says, "Be gracious to me, God, for a man is trampling me, overpowering me, consuming me, if you will." Said he fights and oppresses me all day long. So he's recognizing what's going on around him. He says this, "My adversaries trample me all day, for many arrogantly fight against me." So he's facing his fears. He knows that this stuff is going on. He says, those around me, they want to destroy me. That's a real struggle that many people wrestle with. Many people feel like that there's something around them that wants to take them out in some capacity, whether it's physically, whether it's just off the map, out of sight, out of mind, all these different ways. But isn't that what the adversary does? The adversary, the enemy himself, he wants to make us irrelevant. He doesn't want us to have any relevancy whatsoever. Because if we're activated, if we're moving, if we're freely doing our thing and expressing our faith, somebody might get saved. And if that's the case, the enemy loses another one, and he hates that. And so we see here, David is looking out around him, and he's seeing those things that strike fear within the heart in multiple different ways. I've shared many, many, many times that the earlier part of my life, for the large part of my young adult life, I spent on the road as a police officer, law enforcement, deputy sheriff, all those different titles. I can say that today, right now, in 2024, I don't know that I've ever seen people be more hateful than I see right now. And it doesn't always have to be physical violence. While there's a lot of that still going on, we have to understand we're living in very dangerous times, because there seems to be no conscience. Think about that. David here even is saying, those around me want to destroy me. What is the greatest way of doing that today? Words. Words. On this very platform right here, Facebook, YouTube, all the different areas that we place Making It Simple on, there is another untold millions of videos that people use to harm others by their words. They speak ill of others. They demean others. They teach things, even in a platform like this, that simply are not true. And I'm going to be doing something on that very, very soon, as I've been reading in my daily reading from the book of Colossians. And the letter there is very, very clear. It says, pay no mind, give no time to those. Anyhow, we'll talk about that. But we're talking, again, not always with physical violence. Oftentimes the damage of hateful words is even greater. Black eyes and broken bones, they hurt, they're embarrassing, but they heal. Crushing words, destroyed reputations, they rarely ever recover. You see, David here, he knew, because of who he was and his position and whatever, that many were out to get him. Many were out to destroy him, as he says. And fear became real. Fear became real. In fact, it was oppressive, as fear can oftentimes be, because it's trapping, it holds us in place. The word oppression means to suppress. It means to suppress by maltreatment or abuse. That falls into the category of both physical and verbal. Again, as an officer, I saw people that were physically abused in horrible ways. Again, black eyes, broken bones, knocked out teeth, hospitalized, all those things. But the ones that I saw abused even greater were the verbal ones, the ones that had been broken, that had no self-worth, no self-esteem, no anything. They had just been broken. All of this comes to an understanding that every one of us in our life have dealt with fear. And again, we talked about yesterday the fear of things, items, bugs and snakes and water, other people and all this other stuff. There may be someone listening to this today that is dealing with fear, because fear is real. It's real. And we struggle with it because it's real. If it were simply a made up thing on TV or a trending video on some form or something like that, an old made up movie that we know is not real, okay, then that would be one thing. It would just be a reaction to something. But fear is real. And we have to understand, because it is real, we have to address it. Because if not, it is an overpowering thing. It is an oppressive thing that suppresses by maltreatment and abuse, because it only takes, it never gives back. Never gives back. And it can be found in pretty much every realm of life. Financial fear. How many people are in that today and ask themselves all the time, are we going to make it? The cost of living is out of control. And those that seem to be supposedly in positions to help that, they do nothing. They only make it worse. They say, well, everything costs too much. Let's raise taxes. But I'm already struggling to keep the lights turned on, and you want more from me? Financial fear is very, very real for many people today. Health fear. Untold millions and millions of people have died over the last couple of years for various different reasons that maybe otherwise they wouldn't have. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things out there that we really don't even know about. Health fears. I've had something going on. What is that? That's a concern for a lot of people. People fears. What do you mean, Pastor? What are they going to say? What are they going to do? The fear of the unknown. How are they going to react? Fear of the future. What's going to happen? Are we safe? Do we need to buy freeze-dried food? Do we need to hide in the what's going to happen? What am I going to do? How's this going to work out? Does that sound like a familiar conversation that maybe you've had or maybe you've heard? Because that list just goes on and on and on. And for every one of us, fear is different because things affect everybody differently. What is your most oppressive fear? What holds you back? What keeps you from really going for it all? Has fear overtaken you? What are you doing to overcome it? David faced his fears and he said, when I am afraid, so he recognized that this was real. He said, I'm going to trust God. Are you there yet? If not, I pray that by the end of this lesson, you will be ready to do that. God bless you, friends. Thank you for joining me today for Making It Simple. We'll be back, Lord willing, tomorrow with the next part of Making a Trade.